Hello and welcome to Thursday's Hotline Live with Record Sport. I'm Daniel Kuhn. I'm delighted, over the moon, exhilarated to be joined by Keith Jackson and Scott McDermott. Guys, how's it going?
Aye, brilliant, Daniel.
Great.
But maybe not quite as exhilarated as you.
Aye, given that you're sitting in your kitchen. Your dinner will be ready the minute this is finished.
Aye.
Me and him are starving here.
Listen, before we go any further, Corn Celt watching live on YouTube writes in, you're late.
Yeah, we are late. That's Scott's
I'll
fault.
put my hand up for that. It's taken me about an hour to get here for East Kilbride, given the traffic, but consummate professional, Daniel.
Well, there's nothing consummate
Unlike
or
some
professional about
that are
this.
sitting in their house.
You're late.
The only place for us to start, Keith, I understand there's a bit of a breaking news story.
Yeah.
The Union Bears.
Yeah, it depends how interested people are in the relationship between fans and clubs and ultras and etc. etc. But do you know what? It just feeds into the general narrative that all is not well at Rangers, on the pitch, off the pitch. I think in the last half hour or so, the ultras group, the Union Bears, have released a statement which is really quite stinging in its criticism of the Rangers board. Suggesting and claiming that their plans for a display ahead of Sunday's match against Hearts were hampered severely, I think in their words. The club refused them access into the ground to set it up as they would normally do ahead of kick-off. So a statement has come out in which they claim that this is sort of tit-for-tat stuff because of previous banners that have been unfurled. I think was it the semi-final against Motherwell, Scott? There was a time to go Park and Co or something like that aimed at Douglas Park, the former chairman. So it feels like on the brink of some sort of civil war. The statement that I've seen reads: the Union Bears have always took immense pride. I think we both need to start that one again. The Union Bears have always took immense pride in producing our Remembrance Day display. Unfortunately, this year, due to sanctions imposed on us by the board, our preparation and ability to carry out the hundreds of man-hours required to produce such a tifo were severely hampered. These sanctions were imposed by board members who appear to believe that punishing a vocal element of the support will cover up their continuous shortcomings in the boardroom. It goes on to say that because they were not given their usual access to a stall that they have on match days, where they sell their own merchandise, that this has now impacted on their plans to do a similar tifo for the 125th birthday celebrations for Ibrox Stadium, which I think is later this month, the end of December. The statement goes on: the club also restricted access to our pre-match stall, which significantly impacted our merchandising sales during a month we are raising funds to order the material required to carry out preparations for a 125th anniversary tifo. Unfortunately, due to financial constraints caused by lost revenue and a lack of opportunity to seek alternative venues at short notice to facilitate such a display that we would consider appropriate for commemorating such an occasion, we will not be commencing with our plans for an Ibrox anniversary tifo. In recent years, we believe we held a sustainable relationship with the club. However, in recent months, through yet another power shift, we have yet again become the focus of an ego-driven campaign by select board members who solely want to harm the group and limit our matchday capability. So, it's not good, is it, Scott? It just, as I said, it feeds into this kind of feeling that everybody's on the brink right now over there.
This is just what Rangers need at the minute, isn't it? It feels like one thing after another. Like you say, it feeds into the whole negative vibe, or this kind of dark cloud that seems to be following Rangers around at the moment. The last thing they need is infighting between board members and fans, especially a vocal element of the support. The guy I probably feel sorry for, when you told me about this as I came in, the first guy I probably thought about was John Gilligan. I'm just thinking, this is exactly what he doesn't need. The guy standing in a temporary basis,
He's trying to hold the whole thing
He's
together.
trying his best to, as you say, knit the club together again. And he's trying to find a CEO. They're trying to get a new chairman. They need a academy director. They need a director of football. I mean,
And they might soon need a manager.
well, you said that, not me. But this is the last thing they need. And the mad thing about it is, this is a fans group who the Rangers board seemingly have actually bent over backwards to accommodate in the Copeland stand. Because if you remember right, they were in the Broomloan initially, kind of in the corner, bottom corner of the Broomloan, and they wanted them to be more prevalent, if you like, at the game.
The match day
in terms
experience.
of the match day atmosphere, match day experience. So I'm led to believe season ticket holders who were in the Copeland for years had to get moved to accommodate them. So clearly before there was some sort of relationship there, some sort of value put in the Union Bears, and if this is true tonight in terms of that statement, then it seems that that's been somewhat eroded recently, and there's a problem there.
Do you know, yeah, sorry, Daniel.
Sorry, Keith. No, I was just going to say, just on what you say, Scott, about how Rangers really don't need this at the minute. Whoever it is, I know the statement kind of alludes to Clarke after the what we say. Won't pick a fight with the biggest ultra group. It's the last thing that you can do. Whoever behind kind of lining them up, antagonising them, it's the silliest news. Why would you do that right now with everything else in it?
Especially if
Daniel, I know you're in the kitchen, but you sound like you're speaking to us with your head down the toilet, mate.
I think my signal might have gone a bit there, but I think we're back. Hopefully,
That's a bit better.
there you go.
See if it is this tit for tat thing though. I mean, if that's true, and it is tit for tat, and a couple of board members aren't happy about other banners. I mean, that's ludicrous. I mean,
Well, the only one who's been named was Douglas Park or his son.
Yeah.
His son is still on the board, so it seems to be directly aimed at them, and the statement appears to suggest that certain board members with egos. So that's what it's all pointing towards, and they have picked them out as people that they are demanding move on, change, loosen their grip on the thing.
These board members are then trying to punish the fans group for this in retaliation. I mean, that's not going to end well, is it?
It's not. It doesn't seem like a smart move.
No.
Well, Rangers Easy OK, guys, is written in on YouTube saying it's Douglas Park and his son who have the problem with the UB for the banners at the board don't have an ounce of credit in the bank and fans UB on this.
I think they probably will, because I think the whole thing at Rangers right now is teetering on the brink. I think fans are fed up with what they're watching on the pitch. They're fed up with what's been happening off it. They were, never mind celebrating Ibrox's 125th anniversary. They were kicked out their own home. They were homeless at the start of the season because of what was going on and bad decisions that were being taken. So there's a lot of frustration and anger bubbling just under the surface. Something like this could bring it to boiling point.
Yeah.
And do you think ultras are going to say, oh, well, do you know what, we better behave ourselves now? Because we've talked about it the other night with the Green Brigade. They enjoy the attention, they enjoy the focus, they like to be pushing boundaries and being obnoxious. I fully expect this to mean that the kind of campaign against whoever it is that's troubling them will be cranked up even further, and it'll just add to the kind of feeling that the whole place is fractured.
Yeah, because was one of the banners, was it not Rugby Park, one of the banners basically, it was almost like urging fans, it was almost saying that it's time for fans to make the change,
right.
Force change. So, as you say, they were already on the edge, on the brink. This will have just tipped them over it in terms of that particular ultras group. Whether other fans will follow them and back them up in their protests remains to be seen. That doesn't always happen. But
it doesn't always happen, but there's a perfect storm brewing here, because the rest of the Rangers fans, I think the vast majority aren't all that bothered. As long as their team's out there, it's winning games, and they enjoy going to watch the matches on a Saturday. But there's nothing enjoyable about the whole fan experience these days. They're going and they're watching a team which is substandard and achieving results which are leaving them trailing Celtic and Aberdeen at the top of the table. So if they were perfectly happy, if Rangers were at the top of the league right now, nobody'd care. The vast majority of these fans wouldn't get. But the point is, right now, they are unsatisfied with everything that they're looking at all across the board, and including the board.
Yeah.
And that doesn't bode well for them. I mean, they should take advantage of the fact it's an international break right now, but honestly, even though it is, I still predict that things are going to get pretty spicy when the domestic stuff returns.
Let me hit you both with a couple of live comments that have come in. Mark Fairfield: Rangers fans want champagne football at Irn-Bru prices, get upset, asking where the money is. It's gone back to the men who poured money to keep the club going. I think Rangers is okay again. What's the update, guys, on the CEO and chairman? We're pushing 9 months here, still absolutely nothing. It's shameful. I mean, I think it's fair to say, guys, we don't really have an update, do we?
No.
Okay, cheers.
Nothing continues to happen, appears to be the update. But John Gilligan did say, and I think he's well-meaning, John Gilligan, but I think his choice of words was clumsy when he said, in the dream scenario, we'd have a new chief executive in before Christmas. And people are looking at that going, in what way is that the dream scenario? Yeah. Why are Rangers finding it so difficult, A, to make decent recruitment at boardroom level, and then B, to keep hold of anybody? Why have they been reduced to such a kind of empty, hollow state?
Is it right that they've got a recruitment agency to do it?
Yes. Yeah.
A London based firm. I mean, whether that's the right thing or not, I'm not so sure, but I'd imagine one thing that does do is give you a lack of control as to when it's going to happen, because you're basically leaving it to them, aren't you? So whether it's before Christmas or no remains to be seen.
Well, we're on Rangers, Keith. Barry Ferguson's weekly column with Record Sport is out tomorrow.
And it's a must-read, by the way, for Rangers fans. It's a great column. I read it myself earlier. I
was going to say that. So you obviously spoke with Barry. I mean, what can you give us a flavour of it, the gist of it?
It's actually really interesting. I think he's addressing the current ongoing situation with James Tavernier, the captain who is no longer assured of getting a game, who was deemed third choice in his specialised position against Olympiacos, and then came straight back into the starting lineup at the weekend. And I think that the whole column is about the value and the meaning of being Rangers captain. And he's not criticising Clement for making decisions on what his best 11 looks like and whether or not James Tavernier should be in that. But what he is talking about is the significance of wearing the armband. This is a man who was stripped of it on 2 separate occasions by 2 separate managers. And I think we might have even made a comparison in here to Tavernier and Clement being reminiscent of Barry Ferguson versus Paul Le Guen. I think Barry makes the point in his column that that's not fair, and it's not really that similar. One, Tavernier's not been stripped of the captaincy, but 2, Clement understands in a way that Paul Le Guen never appeared to do about the importance and the significance and the privilege that comes with wearing the Rangers armband and being the club captain. He can't select James Tavernier simply on that basis, but what he has done is he's selected Jack Butland as a guy who clearly has the character and the wherewithal and the intensity to represent the club and step into that breach, if you like. It's really interesting, and he talks about his moments when he took over the captaincy from Lorenzo Amoruso, when he was, called into Dick Advocaat's office and offered it, and how sorry he felt for Lorenzo, but how he knew it was an offer that he couldn't turn down. And then when he was stripped of it by Le Guen, stripped of it again, Walter Smith actually reinstated him and put the armband back on him when Walter Smith replaced Le Guen, and then ultimately Walter Smith stripped it from him following the Boozegate furore. And when you read the column, there's such an intense sort of feeling of regret in there, and all the incidents that led to all these various moments But the overarching message is you cannot underestimate what this means, and nor should it be underplayed or undervalued. And I think that feeds into the current situation where you've got a captain who no longer can be sure of a game. Are you reaching a point where you have to make a decision on to be a proper Rangers captain? You actually really do need to be out there on the pitch.
See everything you're saying there, Keith. I think a lot of that's a British thing with the captaincy.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Le Guen, and it's interesting now we're talking about Clermont in a similar, maybe a similar situation. But I don't know if guys coming in from other countries really understand what captaincy means, especially in the UK and especially at a club like Rangers. Listen, I might be wrong. Maybe Clermont's played in British football.
I think that's Barry's one of the points that he's making, is that this is why Clermont is different from Le Guen. It's not a repeat because Le Guen just didn't get it, and I think he's saying that Clermont does. So it's slightly different, but at the same time, you wonder if the value of the armband is being degraded a little bit now that it's being worn by a guy that can't get on the pitch or is going to get limited game time from here on in. So I think it's certainly something that needs to be addressed, and it's really interesting. I find with Barry Ferguson, when there's a situation going with some player or a manager or at a club, the chances are that Barry Ferguson has been there, lived in it, seen the movie, starred in the movie, written the movie, knows what the ending is before anybody else, because all the scenarios that he's been through during his own career. So, as I said, I couldn't recommend it highly enough. It's a great read in tomorrow's paper.
He's a weird one, James Tavernier, as Rangers captain. I don't know if you guys agree, but over 100 goals, stopped 10 in a row, European final. But I know disrespect to him, but in my head, he's not up there with Richard Gough or John Gregg or even Ferguson. I don't know if you guys would agree with that.
Absolutely, because you're judged as a Rangers captain on how many trophies you deliver.
Aye.
And James Tavernier has come up way short during his 10 years at the club now, isn't it?
I mean, I feel for him slightly in that sense that, when he arrived at Rangers, where the club was, and
he wasn't captain at that point either.
No, and how they had to get back. But I think he said himself, James Tavernier, that I think it was when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, as much as he was delighted and honoured at that, he knew himself that he would be judged on trophies when he leaves the club. That's what people will look back on. And I think a lot of players, obviously, in this kind of era, when you think the last 10 years, they will look back with a wee bit of regret that they didn't put more silverware on the board. But listen, in terms of a player and a signing, I mean, what a signing Tavernier's been for him. Say what you like about him as a player, or how much he's won. For 250 grand, the amount of games he's played, as you say, getting to a European final, alright, only one title, but he's won both cups as well. And the goals he scored,
he's made an enormous contribution, enormous contribution, and that can't be taken away from him. But at the same time, it's really difficult to try and place him in the same sort of level as your Goffs, your Terry Butchers, your Barry Fergusons. And even I think the critical thing for Rangers, even if Clermont is a bit confused and he suffers the same sort of Le Guen syndrome with the captaincy, if you want to know how important it is in this part of the world, you look across the city. You look at what Scott Brown put together over his period as Celtic's captain, and you look at how his successor has stepped up, who was being groomed for the position, has stepped right into it seamlessly, and what a leader he is for Celtic on the pitch. Even watching the Kilmarnock game the other week, Cal McGregor wasn't his best, Celtic weren't at their best. It was 0-0, and they were actually getting played off the pitch for long spells of the first half. But with about 3-4 minutes leading up to half-time, you actually saw McGregor sort of grow, put his shoulders back and say, right, I need to take responsibility here. and he got up the pitch but a bit more, and he was building moves, and he was popping passes into the final third, probing at the command defence. Yes, it all led to him with a bit of a fluke of a goal to put Celtic in front with a cross into the box that ends up catching Robin McCrory and going into the keeper's right-hand post. But it was McGregor's influence at that critical period of the game that got Celtic through. And that's not a one-off. It happens time and time and time again. And that's why it is really important who's your captain. Because some players struggle with the weight of the shirt in both sides of Glasgow divide. Your captain needs to be the inspirational guy that when times are tough, I'll take this, I'll do something, I'll lead from the front. And if Tavernier is leading from the bench, then it's just another problem, isn't it?
Of course.
See, just on that, Keith, I know we've got Scotland stuff coming up as well. I know you were there today, Scott. But while you're talking about that, I think Callum McGregor deserves even more praise in the sense that I remember being at the Scottish Cup final in 2017, right? And a lot of Celtic fans might say I'm wrong, but I remember Callum McGregor having to play at left back that day because Tierney, remember he broke his jaw. And he made a mistake which almost let Johnny Hayes in for what probably would have been Aberdeen's winner. And see the animosity from Celtic fans. If you'd said, what's that, 7 years ago, or 7 years into the future, he'd be on the brink of being a Celtic legend, Celtic captain, this amazing leader, few people would have believed you. But it's testament to him that he is. He's the real deal.
And his mentality and his resilience.
Yeah.
And I think he learned a lot in that regard from Scott Brown. He spent every day on the training ground with the guy, just watching him. And he's a clever guy, McGregor. Mm-hmm. So he would soak it all in. He would look to see, like, how's this guy doing it? Very different personality from Scott Brown. And he's a very different sort of leadership. But fundamentally, at its core, it's the same. It's how do I take this group, help them to achieve, go that extra step when difficult moments and difficult matches, what can I do to inspire? And he does it. And that is why, for me anyway, it is the captaincy is such an important part of any team, but in particularly in this part of the world. I think it's crucial that you've got the right man for the job.
You're right, and it's interesting. I think Celtic have probably been fortunate, if that's the right word, that those two guys you're talking about, Brown and McGregor, both playing in the same position. They're both dictating games, they're orchestrating everything. They dictate the tempo.
Yeah. That is
important. I think
important,
for a captain to do that is so important. Barry Ferguson did that for Rangers. I think Tavernier's had to try and lead in a different way. He can't do that for right back. Can he dictate games? Where I would give him credit is he has inspired Rangers with goals out of nothing, assists, Yankee Dortmund games, stuff like that. Even big pressure penalties.
Yeah.
I know he gets slagged for that, but
Listen,
big pressure penalties when he has to step up.
Did he not score a crucial goal at Celtic Park? In one of the derbies, close to half time, Rangers were behind. I'm sure he curled one in and off the underside of the bar to make it 1-1, just shortly before half time.
Yeah.
So, and in these moments he has done it.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is just a temporary loss of form or dip in form, but he is getting to a certain age now. It is
He's not done that this season.
do you know what it is? It's just another factor to feed into all the various factors that Rangers have got. I mean, imagine you come to the conclusion you need to find a new captain, as well as a new manager, as well as a director of football, as well as a chairman, as well as a chief executive. It does paint a rather chaotic picture all round.
He just looks like a guy this season, and it's only our opinions. We don't know. I know other people have said it. He doesn't look right this year, James Tavernier. He doesn't look particularly happy. He's not produced those kind of moments that we are talking about. To me, he looks like a guy who, and you might have said this before, but he looks like a guy who thought in the summer he was going.
Getting away.
He was
Yeah.
going. And it's felt like that from day one. Even when he's been put up at press conferences and he's been asked about that, and he's been asked about his own form. He's tried to put a brave face on it, but it's been unconvincing.
Yeah.
He just doesn't look doesn't it look the same Tavernier as has been there the last few seasons?
I know time is getting away from us, guys, but we've had a lot of really good comments sent in from people watching at home live, which we really appreciate, just on this Rangers chat. Let me run through a few of them. Dennis Mirren: what the Celtic fans done at Kilmarnock was embarrassing, but the Rangers board's attitude towards a tifo to honour Wardhead was as embarrassing as Celtic fans. Silence from Parkhead about Sunday is embarrassing as well. This one: Tavernier is a sideshow. There are bigger problems and it lies in midfield. Till that's sorted, progress will be slow, but I'm sure Philip Clement has it in hand. And this one here from Blue Nose John: are Rangers in such financial distress that they're trying to limp on without paying what a good chairman and CEO would cost in remuneration? Is that, I mean, see, to be fair to the fans, what else could you think at this point?
You could just think that it's been horribly mismanaged.
Aye, that's true. This one as well, Mark.
And
Mark,
recruitment's looking great.
Mark Fairfield saying, I honestly think Lennon Miller could be the next long-term leader and captain who could get close to Calmac and Bruni's medals. Miller has all the attributes, well, been deep lying, 8-10, picks past captain at 18, confident ahead of his years, and would be a snip at 5 million, leave him alone for 18 months.
It's not a bad shout.
I wonder if 5 million would get Lennon Miller at this point. I think Motherwell are quite rightly looking at him as being, you know, one of these players, that exceptional, generational players. That why would you sell him in the cheap? I think you might need to go a little bit higher than £5 million for
Really?
Lennon Miller. Yeah, I think there'll be interest, significant interest down south.
Yeah.
And when these clubs come to the market, the stakes are raised accordingly. They've got the financial muscle. I don't think it would be outrageous or overly ambitious for Motherwell to think that they could achieve a bigger fee for Lennon Miller.
What
because
a position for Motherwell to be in,
Oh,
if that's the case.
they're sitting in the golden goose.
That's incredible.
Miovski money, perhaps?
Well, yeah, there's a perfect example.
Yeah.
But this boy's 18.
Yeah,
He's got his whole future in front of him. What he's achieving now is only a taste of what's likely to follow.
Yeah.
See with Celtic, Lennon Miller, it was just a wee thing, and it might have been nothing, but after the recent game at Fir Park against Celtic, obviously when he hit the post and hit the bar early on, it was impressive again. It's rare for other opposition managers to talk about no other players, and I thought the fact Brendan Rodgers actually brought him into the conversation, mentioned him by name a bit. I think his exact quote was, "No, they hit the woodwork through a really talented young kid they've got," and I thought he fancies him.
So he didn't mention him by name then?
Well, you know what I mean. I thought he likes him.
Aye.
And he's watching Lennon Miller, he is the archetype of what Brendan Rodgers would just love to work with.
I completely agree.
I'd be amazed if Celtic aren't all over that situation as we speak.
Completely agree.
Before we move on to Scotland, guys, whilst we're talking about Celtic, let me hit you with this. Kuhn or Jota? Who would you have if you could only have one in your starting 11? I put this on Record Sports social media channels. It generated quite a big reaction. I'll just throw a few of them at you. Jeannie says, Kuhn ahead of Jota, definitely. He's a star. Lee Nisbet, Kuhn ahead of
Recency
Jota
bias.
for me. He's faster, more ability, and his final touch is phenomenal. And Timmy saying, I doubt Jota had 10 goals and 11 assists at this stage, so Kuhn for me. I kind of agree with you, Keith. In my mind, I would still have had Jota just ahead of Kuhn.
Marginally.
But Kuhn, of course.
I agree. I thought about this last night, Daniel, when you mentioned it, and two brilliant players, different. I think Jota had a wee bit of stardust about him.
Yeah.
No, he had the tricks, a bit more individualistic. Kuhn, I think, is more of a team player, but probably has more end product when you look at those numbers. But I don't know, Jota just had a bit of magic about him.
The thing
I
is
thought.
that you need to wait and see. I'm saying recency
Aye.
bias. I do think there is. Jota put together over 2 seasons exceptional, a string of exceptional performances. He set a standard for himself that he very rarely dipped below. He was a terrific player and contributor for Celtic. Kuhn has been here now for just about a year, and his first 6 months there wasn't a great deal to get too excited about. No. What we're seeing just now, is this the standard that he intends to maintain and can maintain, you know, as consistently as Jota did over the period? Or is this a purple patch? We don't know that yet. So for that reason alone, we do know that Jota was capable of producing these performances week in, week out over a prolonged period of 2 years. If by the way, this is the level that Kuhn's going to play at over the next 2 years, I think then you have the argument, because Kuhn might be even better. But right now, I think you would give it to Jota purely based on the consistency that he achieved over such a prolonged period of time.
Mark, watching on YouTube, says, if Kuhn gets a German cap, Matt O'Reilly fee will be dwarfed. And of course, Fulham and Brentford are two teams that have been credited with an interest in Kuhn this week. I can't see him getting a Germany cap anytime soon, despite how well he's playing.
No, and there'll be a bit of snobbery involved there that he's playing in the Scottish League, and that will maybe count against him. That is offset
as well. Musiala,
some of the best in the world.
But yeah, that's offset against the fact that he's also playing in the Champions League and he's delivering in the Champions League. So, like, he's always. I spoke to Kuhn. I went down to Lennoxtown before the season started, and he was talking then about his plans. About he was so excited to be playing in the Champions League because that's where he felt he always wanted to be performing. And he did speak about the national team, and I mean, this boy is full of ambition.
Yeah.
So he'll not be held back by a lack of confidence either. Listen, he's starting to look a bit special, and if he continues to perform, and this is going to be the acid test, can you get through the Scottish winter still performing at the levels that he's now hitting? And if he does, and he gets through at the end of the season, and he's still at the level that he's hit recently, well, he's almost already a shoe-in for Player of the Year.
And the thing is, if he's as ambitious as you're saying he is, ultimately he'll want to go to the Premier League, right? And I don't
think we should be selling the guy.
No, but that's what I'm going to say. I think, 5 to 10 years ago, the thought of that so early in his Celtic career would have got fans raging, like you're saying, try to sell him already.
But now we're getting guys coming, we'll get a bigger fee for him.
I think Celtic have been so adept now at
They're so programmed into it,
that even the fans are now buying into it. I think, if we can get more than O'Reilly, because they'll trust.
You've got to trust the process,
the recruitment process. Trust the manager that they'll go and get another Nicolas Kuhn.
And maybe it's they're better adjusted to it than even us, because I remember thinking, Matt O'Reilly, what a loss. He's such an important player. You know, as good as he is, you're not going to bring in somebody that's going to be a like for like replacement. By the way, Matt O'Reilly has moved on. Celtic haven't missed a beat.
No.
They're every bit as impressive, if not more, as a team than they were last season. That takes nothing away from the fact that Matt O'Reilly is a terrific player, but what it does tell you is, in terms of future planning and squad management, Celtic are in such a good place, such a strong place.
Let's finish, guys, by talking about Scotland. I know you were there today, Scott, to hear from the Scotland manager, Steve Clarke. Before we get your take on it, let's hear a little bit of what he had to say. If we can.
I think on the performance we've had so far, we probably deserve a little bit more points wise than we've got. But we've got two games to come, and still a chance to be really competitive in this group and stay at that level, which is what we all want. They're just a good team, you know. They're always well organised. They're always a threat going forward. You know, they can score goals. They have one little magician in midfield who can run a game if you allow them to. I don't think we allowed them to do that in Croatia, and hopefully we don't allow them to do that at Hampden.
Yeah, I always give my absolute best no matter where I'm playing my football, and for me, the dedication and professionalism that I've tried to keep a hold of myself and the things that I've done throughout my career has always given me the best platform to play as well as I possibly can do, and that's all I really focus on, to be honest. I don't think about any external things. Football's my sole driving force in my life, and I just want to play as good as I can every time I get on the pitch.
How's the Italian coming along?
Italian's difficult. It's not easy. I'm trying my best. Obviously, it does take some time, but I'm try my best to learn and be respectful to their culture, and obviously look like I'm trying my best to learn. So yeah, it's okay.
Who's better between you and Billy? You got a competition? Who's got more Italian?
I would say Billy. No, it's similar, to be fair. We're both picking up things as we go along in terms of understanding different phrases and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm enjoying it.
I don't know about you guys, but I feel kind of proud seeing him do so well and Gilmore do so well in Serie A. Do you know what I mean?
It's fantastic.
It's brilliant. See, on Steve Clarke, Scott, what wasn't mentioned in that clip there was that he made a couple of comments that we had on Record Sport Online today about under 21s and the lack of playing time they've had. I didn't realise this, but top flight clubs have given less than 8% of first team minutes to under 21 players this season, with Celtic, Rangers and Aberdeen at 0, which is quite remarkable, to be fair.
It's a big worry. I mean, there was a recent SFA report as well about the kind of dearth of young talent getting first team opportunities. And listening to Steve Clarke today, it's something I think he cares quite passionately about. And he's effectively kind of warned the game's hierarchy in this country that if we don't change the way we're nurturing young talent and developing it, then we're going to just fall behind the big nations in Europe, or fall even further behind. Now, how we do that is a massive question. I mean, he actually said that if he was to have a part in that, he'd almost need to step away from the manager's job.
It felt to me a little bit like he's already writing the terms for his future role. Which, by the way, would anybody in the country possibly have a problem with, given what he's done for the national team?
Exactly.
If he then took on the responsibility of saying, right, I tell you what, put me in charge of development across the board, I think we'd gladly welcome him. If his last stand in terms of being the head coach is the World Cup qualification campaign, and he wants to then, he clearly given it a lot of thought. And he'd mentioned it previously, Scotty, when me and you were in Zagreb, about how the Croatians are doing this, how they just, similar size population, but they churn out one world-class player after the next.
Yep.
And we should be able to achieve something similar with the right approach.
They definitely sees Croatia as the
template.
Yeah, 100%. And there's wee things within that, like, it's Croatia's kind of almost like their kind of policy, if you like, that when they do bring through young talent, they keep them in Croatia's league for a certain amount of time to get the games. They go in early, they play early, they get the games under the belt, and then when they inevitably go to other bigger European leagues for big money. So we could do a lot worse than learn from their model.
And the thing as well, Scott, that there's an intense national pride about representing Croatia, wearing that shirt, the old tablecloth shirt. Luka Modric at his age, did he really need to be playing against Scotland? It was a rotten night and the stadium's half empty because of the earthquake that affected Zagreb. It felt low-key, even by our standards. But there was a guy, he turned up to do the press the night before the game.
Yep.
He couldn't have been more welcoming. He was, or helpful. He just loves being part of that. Now, he has gone from, talk about, Steve Clarke talked about Scotland when he first came in and really cleverly identified that you've got guys like Andy Robertson, McTominay, John McGinn, Kieran Tierney, that are all at the top level of the English Premier League. They're lifted and laid like absolute superstars in the best of hotels, given the best of meals, and he identified that this was a problem. So Scotland left the Orion facility, which just wasn't up to scratch, and they moved into a new base, a 5-star hotel in Glasgow City Centre that the players love, because it's all about feeling, oh yeah, this is really professional. This is as professional as we are back at home. Now, that is brilliant because it works, right, and it's good. But look at Modric. I mean, he's leaving Real Madrid and all the superstar treatment to go to Zagreb, and it's nearly snowing, and the stadium's run down, but it's this intense pride that playing for Croatia comes first.
Yeah.
And it's the same at club level, and that's where we will have a problem. And if Steve Clarke did fancy a role like that, this is where it's almost going to be impossible, that you would need to reverse the psyche of the whole country, that Rangers and Celtic and Aberdeen and whoever else would need to be prepared to play second fiddle to the national team? Because that's what happens in Croatia, and it's not going to happen.
Clarke, there's been quite a strong reaction to Clarke's comments, guys, on the under-21 stuff. Fred Dixon writes in saying the alarming trend is, apart from a few, we're not producing young players with talent anymore. You hardly see youngsters out playing any sport nowadays. Parents have to pay astronomical prices to have the privilege of playing whatever sport they choose. When I was younger, every green waste piece of land had someone kicking a ball and practising skills. Dan O'Neill says there's really no excuse for Celtic and Rangers not bringing through young Scots. They spend most of the money in their academies and have the best facilities. What's the problem? Some fair points, I think.
Daniel, I think I've mentioned this before, but I spoke to a guy a couple of weeks ago, Cameron Campbell, young Scottish coach, who's working at RB Leipzig. I spoke to him before they came to Glasgow for the Celtic game, and we were talking about this, and he had a great stat. They've done a kind of report at Leipzig on the 100 most valued players in Europe, so the top 100 players in Europe. And if you look back, 97 of those players were playing first team football before the age of 20. And
wow.
most of them were in a first team environment from like 16, 17. It's no coincidence that these guys are now the top players. Young,
our young guys are walking about playing cotton wool football with their Gucci man bags, thinking they've cracked it. That's the truth.
No, it's not. It's just, it's a funny image.
There's also a fear for the clubs at times to put them in too early. We still, I know it's a cliche, but in Scotland, a 21-year-old's still a youngster.
And the irony in all of this is that Steve Clarke hasn't promoted Lennon Miller into the Scottish national setup.
I said this in the show last week. He should be in right now. He should be in.
Should be in for me.
Every national team with their most up and coming, promising teenager, as you say, Scott, they're in the team at 18, learning.
He's not going to be in the team.
In the squad, rather. Sorry, in the squad.
He could be in and around the squad.
Aye.
And learning and feeling assimilated and feeling part of it, and knowing that he's going to spend the next 10, 12 years as a central part in whatever the Scotland side might look like. Lennon Miller will be there. Yeah. So I would encourage that. I just find it, I'm just mentioning that, I find it slightly ironic that we're talking about why we don't trust young players. We've got an absolute golden goose sitting at Motherwell, and there's a reluctance to bring him, fast track him into the setup. And I do understand the argument. He needs more games.
Has to happen soon.
He needs more games. Let him play under 21s. Let him come up through the levels. I understand all that. But it flies in the face of exactly what you were just explaining there.
I'm a great believer in terms of young players. Good players play better with good players, with better players.
Yeah.
If you think of what Lennon Miller's doing with Motherwell just now, an absolute standout. That's no disrespect to the Motherwell squad or the guys he's playing with. But you put him into a midfield with McTominay and Gilmour and McGinn, and he'll just get better and better. And that's why I don't understand the reluctance not to put him in. He will play better with better players.
I think
get him in there.
I agree. I totally agree. But I think the other thing, because we're mentioning here that it's almost as if we're going through a sort of a crisis period. We're not developing. This is as good a period as there's been for Scottish football that I can remember, and I don't know how long. In terms of producing young players who are making the grade.
This century.
You've just rattled off a few. Well, it goes back further than that, Daniel.
Aye.
I agree with you. I don't buy it. There's no talent.
There's loads of talent.
There's no young players.
We've got talent all over the place. We're dripping with talent.
But we need to play them.
Aye, that's true. Well, I know you guys are off to Poland for the game in Warsaw on Monday. Before I let you go from this episode, I need 2 predictions from you for both games. Let's hear it.
Both games? Well, I've went for 2-1 Scotland tomorrow night.
Have you?
Aye, I fancies tomorrow.
So have
I. Aye.
Oh, that's cute.
I don't. I just think. I think we've put I think Steve Clarke's put good wee building blocks along the way.
Absolutely agree.
Nations League campaign, and I think we're just reaching that point where we're going to go and
we're ready to
beat
get a win.
team. Aye, ready to get a win. I think it'll happen. Croatia weren't that great.
We were the better team in
Zagreb.
Zagreb.
Aye.
And their manager conceded that after the game.
Yeah.
So Scotland just outplayed us.
Yeah.
They couldn't believe they got away with that result.
Yeah.
And Clarke's tactics, his game plan was spot on. As he mentioned in the press conference, they devised a way to stop Modric from getting onto the ball and dictating all the time. Scottish midfield was superb. Billy Gilmore was outstanding and really relished, because that's one of his absolute idols he was up playing against, and he wanted to make an impression on him. And I think as they were leaving the pitch, I'm pretty sure that Modric sought him out and had a little chat with him in his ear going off the pitch. So yeah, for all those reasons, I completely agree. I'm going to go 2-1 Scotland. And listen, I'll be happy. I think another sign of progress if we get a point, but I think we can get more from this.
Yeah. And also Steve Clarke was quite happy today when he was in the press conference. He was
happy, Steve Clarke.
Honestly, it was, I know, that's why I'm saying it. He was quite chirpy. And that might seem daft, but that just told me he's very content with how the squad is shaping up again after the whole Euros debacle.
He's in a better place, and the squad's in a better place.
Back in a good place.
The Euros was
players back.
The Euros was a bit of a kick in the teeth for all concerned, but it feels better again.
Guys, I think that brings us to the end of Thursday's Hotline Live, brought to you by Record Sport. Thanks so much for everyone at home for sending in the comments. It's been a really good discussion tonight. Keith, Scott, thank you very much, and safe travels when it comes to it for heading over to Warsaw, where you'll be back on the show with myself on Sunday.
We will indeed. Cheers, Daniel.
Cheers, Daniel.
Thanks for watching at home. Cheers.